that it isn't that hard, that if you just really listen to people, they will give you all the clues that you need.
This is the Sales Bible Podcast, episode 231. You Can't Challenge Your Way to a Sale. An interview with Meredith Elliott Powell.
Welcome to Sales Babble, the podcast that shares selling secrets for non-sellers. And now your host, Pat Helmers.
Hello, Sales Babblers. This is Pat Helmers. And if you're new to the podcast, this is the podcast that shares selling secrets for non-sellers. We're here to take the mystery out of sales. When I started this podcast, it was all focused on people kind of like me. My background was an engineer. I was a software engineer working for a tech company. And over time, I'd get closer and closer to the customers. And pretty soon, I was actually selling products and eventually managing salespeople. And that was the path that I took. And if I was to look back into the past at my former self, the last thing I ever saw myself doing was getting into sales. But look at this. Here I am. And now this podcast is here to share all those things that I've learned and to bring experts on as guests so they too can share the things that they've learned that really works in sales. Which brings me to the point of today's guest. Her name is Meredith Elliott Powell. She's a business growth expert and an award-winning author. She's a keynote speaker. She's a business strategist. She's written 4 books. Winning in the Trust and Value of Economy was one. And her latest is Own It, Redefining Responsibility, Stories of Power, Freedom, and Purpose. The thing about Meredith is she helps business leaders, owners, learn all the new rules of success. And today, sales has changed, and she likes to talk about how that works. Today, we focus on the Challenger sale, and we have a very lively conversation on how you can't really cheat your way into a sale. There's a better way to approach it, but I don't want to give away the secret quite yet. Let's have Meredith share it. So, with no further ado, let's get to it. Welcome, Meredith. Are you ready to babble?
I am ready to babble.
Meredith, you and I bumped into each other on LinkedIn, and I think we were chatting about some common thread that was on there. I don't remember what it was. But you and I got on the phone, and we started talking about sales, and you're a sales expert, right? And the conversation got turned around by the Adams-Dixon book, The Challenger Sale. And the whole conversation was challenging the Challenger sale.
Yes, it was. I'm one of those rare people that challenges the Challenger sale.
My youngest son's in sales, and the company that did the study on that, whose name I don't recall, does sales training for their company. And according to my son, even the authors aren't too pumped about this anymore. but the company that did all the research on there still is. What I'd like to do is chat about this, and I guess it'd be more fun if I had Adamson and Dixon on here, and maybe I should call them up someday. That'd be hard to do and see what they really think. I couldn't find anything on that. I'm babbling. Sorry. So, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, first of all, I think there are definitely some really good thoughts in the book. So I don't want to completely act like I'm against it. Just the premise of it, what I didn't like is that there's a couple of things. Number one is the Challenger sale really talks about the salesperson, one, taking control of the conversation, and the second is really acting like a teacher. And I think that first of all, as salespeople in general, that can stress us out when we think that it just sounds strong, it sounds aggressive, it sounds pushy. And I think that's one of the major things that repels people from taking a role in sales to begin with. The other is, I don't think the sales conversation is about control. I think it's a dance between two people where you're in it to both learn about each other and to educate each other, not to teach each other. Education is about making people aware, to broaden their visions. Teaching is about telling them directly what to do. And I just don't think that's our role as a salesperson. And again, I feel like a Challenger sale, you're going in to tell the customer what to do. And I think we're going in there to have a conversation to increase our awareness about what they need and to help increase their awareness about how we can help them.
See, it seems to me that, especially when we're first meeting somebody and we're qualifying them, we're doing a bunch of discovery kinds of questions. We're just trying to figure out whether or not, our products, our services can actually help them. So the idea of going in there and tutoring them just doesn't seem right. And in fact, sometimes, especially if you have a new product or a new service or you're a startup, no way can you possibly tell people about their business because you're new to it. And that's the vast majority of salespeople coming into companies because they switch every 2-3 years.
Absolutely. Like I said, I really feel like it misleads a salesperson on 2 levels. Number one is I am just on a mission to get more people to love sales, to want to sell, because I think it's one of the best careers you can ever have. But, sales just has a negative connotation.
Yep.
And it's because of aggressive tactics, because you have to do this and you can control that. And for the majority of the population, the challenger sale approach is too pushy, too aggressive, and too uncomfortable. But the second piece that I think is almost more important is that you can't teach your way through every single sale. It depends on the person you're interacting with, to the point that you made that was so beautiful. It depends on the stage at which you're in the sale. And it depends on whether you're in there discovering something you even think this is a good prospect for you, or they are even ready to buy. So I think it has some really great elements in a right situation. But I think where sales gets derailed for most people is that we think it's a task we have to win, when really sales is a conversation between 2 people where you're making them aware of what you have to offer. And if they want to buy, great. If not, you may stay in touch with them. You may move on to the next person. But sales is relaxed.
So let's talk about, instead of talking about what the challenger sale is, what is great sales? It's relaxed. I just heard that. What else?
Well, I always tell people to sell from a place of power rather than a place of need. And
sell from a place of power
versus need. And the way that I feel, how I teach sales and how I get people to get excited about sales and how I get people to shift their paradigm about sales is the fact that all you're doing is making people aware of an amazing product and service that you have and how it can benefit their business. If they buy it, great. If they don't, you have 1,000 other people that you're going to talk to. Listen, everybody sells every day of their life. I mean, you mentioned your son. When he was little, you had to convince him to eat a vegetable, right? We have spouses convincing each other to go on a diet, to take a walk. We're dealing with aging parents that we have to sell them on giving up their car keys. We are selling every day of our life. And the reason we do it is because we are driven by the fact that we love people and we want to help them. We need to take that same mindset into sales. I love the products that I sell, and I just want to go out and tell everybody about them. And if they buy them, fabulous. But if not, I'm not going to shove them down their throat.
Now, the problem that sometimes comes with that is, and you see people doing that a lot of time, especially people who are kind of naive in sales, is that's what they think they're there to do. As soon as they're in front of you, they start telling you all their things about all their specifications and all the doodads that this product or this service has. But that's really not building awareness.
Mm-mm. No, and especially in today's marketplace, you've got to build relationship first. And that almost sounds like a cliche, right? Because we've been talking about building relationship in sales. I know since I remember the first term popped up when I was in corporate in the late 80s. But in today's marketplace, it isn't the product that anybody's buying, because quite frankly, we could all sit at home and Google and buy anything we want to, right? Salespeople, if they don't create a relationship and they don't add value through the service they personally offer, they're irrelevant.
It's interesting, in the Challenger sale, I was reading this, I was flipping through that this morning, only 7% of the Challenger salespeople, there's like 5 types in the book, yeah, I think it's 5, mm-hmm. Only 7% of them build relationships.
And here's my thought. Here's my thought on that. You know what, 100% right. You can get a sale all day long without building a relationship, but will you get a second sale? Will you get a third? Will you build a lifelong customer? And will you get referrals? No. Because we have all been in that situation where you buy something because you want the salesperson to go away.
I remember very clearly. I've said this story before here on Sales Babble, where I bought a system, and I hated the salespeople, but I bought it anyway because it was the best product on the market.
Mm-hmm. That's right. And that holds for a while. But think about the speed of innovation in today's marketplace. So I come out with a product that is clearly better than anybody else's product, and I can sell as obnoxiously as I want to for a finite period of time. Because the speed of innovation, my competitors will catch up or will surpass my product in nothing flat. So one thing I love about sales today is that you have to be really good at the skill of selling. You have to really clearly be able to define what you as the salesperson add on top of the product or service if you want to build a relationship for life. And if you want to sell fast and you want to sell pushy, you will sell all day long, but you'll sell as hard as it is to sell because you'll have to keep starting all over. You slow that process down a bit on the front end, you really get to know your prospect, you build that trust, you build that connection, you'll sell them for a lifetime, and you can sell aggressively once the relationship's been built.
So what are some good ways of building trust, and what are some bad ways? And how can we know what's which? Because I think people often get confused by this.
Yeah, I think one of the most important ways, which will simultaneously the opposite of which will be the worst way, is I say that one of the most important ways to build trust is to sell urgent need. And what I mean by urgent need is that, you assume you walk in to talk to a customer. And I say walk in means you may have them on the phone, you may be dealing with them online, you may physically walk into their place of business. But the chances that when you walk in there, your product or service is top of mind to that customer are kind of slim to none. Because think about your own business. I mean, I woke up this morning and I've got an assistant who's behind on a project. I've got 3 proposals that I've got to have done by the end of the day, and I have a big presentation on Thursday. Those are the things that I care about the most today. And when a salesperson comes in and immediately starts talking about their product or service, I lose trust because I need them to slow down, ask me questions, and acknowledge what is most important and top of mind to me. Because if they don't do that, I don't feel listened to and I don't feel heard. I'll give you a really quick example. My husband is a dentist, owns a dental practice, and he had a sales rep coming to his office that he knew was coming there to talk about a specific piece of equipment. Now, Rob had the day from when the sales rep walked in,
Right,
and he
right.
was behind. He was behind on patients and everything. But the appointment was set up for 3:00. Salesperson comes in, takes a seat. Rob comes in. He hasn't had a sandwich yet. He hasn't eaten anything. He sits down, and immediately the salesperson launches into talking about that piece of equipment. Rob said, could you just hold a second? Let me just grab a sandwich. Let's talk about a couple of things. And the sales rep said, hey, you know what? Look, I know you're behind. I just want to get this done quickly. That way you'll get it. Rob never felt heard or listened to. The salesperson kept going right over what he or she was talking about. And when you do that, customers don't feel heard. And if they don't feel heard, they'll never trust you because you make it sound like the sale is more about your goals than it is about their goals. And I think that's one of the worst things we do as salespeople is we go in, I'm old enough that I remember pre-call planning, where we used to sit down before we ever had a call with a customer, and we would decide what questions we were going to ask, basically what they would say, and what product we would offer. Talk about not listening to the customer. So I just think it's one of the things that we do. If you ever called like the cable company or something and said, I need this product, and they start offering you all these deals, and you're like, wait a minute, I don't even know what you're talking about. So I think overselling, not acknowledging their urgent need, and not just paying attention to what's most important to them is how we derail trust.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really important to be authentic. I'm thinking about how many times have I called the cable company, the support company, and this is not sales, but the support, and they say, "Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that, Mr. Helmers. Oh, that's terrible."
Uh,
And you know it's just something they're reading off the
oh,
paper.
that one tries. How about when you get stuck on hold with them, and it's not even on the cable company, but it's everybody, and they've been given the script that says, "How was your weekend?" So are you got any great plans for the summer? And I just think to myself, one, you're reading that off the script, but I just want my cable box fixed. I don't really want to be sharing my plans for the summer with you. I mean, what a great point. And another thing that really goes with that, where I feel like we lose trust, is that we're not gauging who the customer is in front of us, and we're using sales training to apply to everybody. Like, I'm a get to the bottom line person. I don't want to chit chat. I don't want to talk about anything else. I want to get you off my to-do list and move on to something else. And when salespeople are in front of me, I went in to buy a new telephone, and first the sales guy showed me like 70 phones, which I don't want to see. I want it whittled down to 3. I want to make a decision. Then when I made a decision, he kept trying to talk me into 2 or 3 other ones. And then we had a big, long conversation about his lake house. I'm not that person. And it derails trust because you're not paying attention to the personality style of the person, of your prospect. And that's so important, to adjust your style of selling to their style of selling.
That requires real listening.
Yes.
It also requires you to have a sense of like different kinds of people that are out there. I know this kind of sounds like stereotyping to a certain degree, but I think that's what it is. It sounds like that sales guy who was selling to your husband may have been more successful with you, but your husband was beat that day. That's the last thing he wanted to do, was put his mind in gear.
Yeah, and what a great example of listening right there, because you're absolutely right. My husband is relationship oriented. He will buy from you all day long, but he wants to know about you. He wants you to know about him. I got no time for that. I'm like, I don't even want to know your last name. I don't care if you have kids. Could we just talk about the product and buy it? And it's amazing to me when I watch people sell how much they miss those cues. And it really, really matters, because like you said, that salesperson who was selling to my husband, Rob just really needed to talk. And he ended up buying the product, but not from that salesperson. And I ended up writing a great blog about it, because I sat there watching as that salesperson killed a deal, not about the product at all.
Yeah. See, there's a paradox here I've found, that the more you get the prospect to talk, the higher the likelihood, the probability that they'll buy.
Mm-hmm.
You talk
That's
less,
true.
they talk more.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I mean, so true, because when people are talking, they feel like the sale's about them. It's not about you. And I think that's someplace where sales really got taken in the wrong direction. When I first started getting a lot of sales training, it would have been the 90s, which never seems that long ago to me, but it was a long time ago. And everything in the 90s was all about the art of the close, the assumed sale, upselling, cross-selling. Everything felt about what I needed to do to aggressively move the prospect to sell. It was never really about taking a breath and allowing them to listen. And I think you make such a great point, because if I allow other people to talk, they'll give me the clues of exactly how to move that sale to close. All I've got to do is pay attention.
See, so there's a paradox, or what do I say? I mean, it's a paradox so much, but it's this Taoist kind of thing, that the best way to control the sale is to give them the illusion they're controlling the sale. So in their conversation, in their talking, and giving them space to ask all of their bloody questions, get them all out, you're actually kind of controlling the sale. Which is the subtitle after the challenges here. Take control of the sale, right?
Right.
But that's the way to control it, by giving them control.
Yes, absolutely. And when you say it like that, that's the other thing that I always tell people is that that sales, first of all, it's so interesting because if you allow other people to talk, you learn all about them. The second is that that it isn't that hard. That if you just really listen to people, they will give you all the clues that you need. They'll put together the puzzle for you of exactly what you need to do next, of exactly what you need to sell in the order you need to sell it, and they'll even give you strong indicators as to the time frame and what they're willing to pay for it. But you have to be quiet long enough and you have to be present enough to really listen.
I love it. Meredith, how can people find you online?
They can find me at my website, valuespeaker.com, the word value and speaker.com, and on all the social networking sites. I'm probably most on LinkedIn, but I am a big connector. I believe if you build your network, you change your life. So please reach out and connect and network with me.
I recommend LinkedIn. You're terrific on LinkedIn.
Thank you.
You're a value speaker. You speak.
Yes, that's right.
Is there anything you want to give away to the listeners? We were chatting earlier before.
Yes, I've got an ebook that if they go to the link they'll find, and it was the very first book that I wrote, and it's 42 Rules to Turn a Prospect into a Customer. And I wrote that book because a lot of people were telling me they could get in the door, but they couldn't close the deal. And so I wrote it on how to get in the door, how to close the deal, and then how to turn your customer into your ultimate advocate. And so it is a 3-part ebook, every step you need to know to turn your prospect into a customer and your customer into a champion.
Awesome. So how do we get that?
All you have to do is go to the link on the landing page that we have sent to you, and you can download the ebook there.
All right, I'll put the link in the show notes so that people can click on that sucker and download that. So before we go, if you were to give the audience one piece of advice they could go and take action on, like this week, I mean, not something like weeks down, like what could they do this week that would make a difference?
Okay, that's really hard because there's a lot of advice I want to give people. But if I were going to close a sale this week, if I wanted to put some revenue on my bottom line this week, the first thing that I would do right now is I would make a list of my top 10 customers, just top people that, boy, I've loved doing business with them. We sold them a great product. They made me smile and they paid me on time. And I would just reach out and I would ask them what's new in their business, what plans they have, for the coming year. And I guarantee you will find new business. You will find a referral and you will find more opportunity to close them. Because one of the biggest things I see with people is that they have not sold enough products or services to their existing customers. And just touching base with existing customers, you'll sell more and you'll increase referrals.
Love it. Terrific advice. Really, really good advice. All right. Meredith, thank you very much for visiting us here on Sales Babble. This has been a ton of fun.
Thank you. It's been great.
So awareness, relationships, trust, this is the way you sell from a place of power, as she says. And I think Meredith is spot on how you can sell successfully here in 2018. Like you said, we want to sell with an urgent need, and we want to find out what's top of mind of our prospects and see if indeed we can help them. And if we can be really successful. The customer's got to feel like they are heard. To connect with Meredith and to find her online, as well as the closing ebook that she mentioned, you can find all the links in the show notes at www.salesbabble.com. And while you're there, click on our archives and you can find our back catalog with all kinds of past episodes on finding leads, how to close a deal, how to give a presentation, how to qualify. All that stuff is in there. I think you'll find a ton of terrific advice in there. Got a question, got a comment? Do not hesitate to reach out. Send me an email. Click the Babble Me button on salesbabble.com. I would love to hear from you. I'd love to answer your questions. So until next week, take care and have a highly successful and profitable selling day.
Thank you for listening to the Sales Babble podcast. Find us at www.salesbabble.com.